Hello and welcome along to another Matchbook Ante-Post Cheltenham Preview, and we're actually only 3 weeks away from the festival. So it's Daniel Hussey here, your host, and this week we decided to cover the Mares Chase because you might often not hear this covered that so far out, and given that it's a new enough race. So delighted to welcome, as always, Micheál Deasy to the podcast. Micheál, welcome back.
Thanks, Dan. Great to be here.
Cheltenham fever there for those not watching on YouTube. You're actually at the track.
I'm at the track, yeah. I'm just here sitting on top of the parade ring, just waiting to go. Barcelona Airport last week and Cheltenham this week is good times.
Matt, you're not at the track yet, but you're obviously catching the Cheltenham fever at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're getting. We've got the handicaps coming out today, the entries. So they've got enough quill, parchment, and ink pen to get them out. There appears to be some sort of technical issue, but hopefully we'll get to see those later on. Looking forward to getting stuck into that.
Yeah, I liked your tweet there, Matt, there just before we came on air. But we'll take a look at the Mares Chase and current prices. If you are watching YouTube, do hit that like button and do subscribe for more horse racing content as well. But looking at the betting, Mount Ida is currently the favourite on the exchange at 4.2. Ellie May is 4.4. Concertista is 4.8. We've got Zambella 15.0, Scarlet Dove 15.0, and Gin Online at 17.0, and then about 20 and bigger the rest. There's also the Glancing Queen in there too. Matt, before we get into it, I guess the Mares Chase, we've only had one renewal of it. It's very hard to get a sense of where this race is going to go. But for you, do you have a few, maybe not necessarily trends, but ideas about how the race is going to go over the next few years, maybe?
Yeah, as you say, no trends, but trying to assess the profile of the race that may build over the next few years. And an obvious starting point is it's going to be a shallow division for some time. Even with all the fantastic incentives, mares comprise a small proportion of the in-training population. Only a small percentage of race mares go over fences. Yeah, they're valuable breeding commodities, so they tend to have shorter careers than geldings. Last year's winner, Colreevy, might be favourite for the Gold Cup now had she stayed in training, but she retired to the paddocks at 8. So with it being a shallow division, I'm expecting this to be a predictable race on the day. In the inaugural running, it was 12.0 bar 3, first 3 in the market with the first 3 home coming clear. I'm expecting more of the same. So on the day, I think the value may well be at the front of the market. But I also think it could be a good race to bet in Ante-Post. That's because in a shallow division, any talented mare coming through is going to have a real chance. And they're going to be springers in the market. Last year, the novice Colreevy was only rated 135 over hurdles, won on just her 4th chase start. She was 29.0 in the sports books just before making her chasing debut in November. She was still 6.0 in February after a final prep before going off 3.25. It's not just novices. Second season chasers progressing through the ranks are likely to provide good long-range Ante-Post value, but novices are going to be important. And perhaps the most important factor at the moment is working out the modus operandi of trainers approaching this race. Willie Mullins first and foremost, given his record in the mares races. And that's going to be vital this year because I think it's odds on that he doesn't run the mare that's been Ante-Post favourite for much of the winter, Concertista. Last year with Colreevy, it was a very un-Mullins thing to do to run a novice in against seasoned chasers in a graded conditions race at the festival. Normally, Willie's very conservative with his placing. Colreevy had run 3 times, but crucially, she won the Grade 1 novice chase at Limerick against the geldings, contested a good race over fences. And as we saw when she beat Monkfish and Envoy Len at Punchestown, she was an exceptional novice mare. Punters seem to be assuming she's a blueprint for how Willie would approach the race going forward. And I think that may be a mistake. This shallower race will probably make him a bit bolder, but I'm not expecting him to run his best novice here every year as a matter of course. Concertista's running just 2 chases, both in mares-only races before the turn of the year. And as well as a lack of chasing experience, she is ground dependent. For Willie, her form on soft or slower is 4-3, 1-1-1, 2-1-1. And on quicker than soft, it's 2-3-3. Willie's default route for his best novice mare has been go to Limerick for the Grade 2 on the Sunday before the festival. And Concertista would likely get a ground there. Willie doesn't have a standout mare in the mares' hurdles. He's got a history of switching his mares between obstacles. Benny de Jure only run over fences for Willie before winning the mares' hurdle. If Concertista does go to Cheltenham, she's more likely to get her ground on Tuesday in the mares' hurdle than Friday in the mares' chase. And she's got a £3 penalty to carry in the mares' chase that Willie's other entries don't have. Now, it's important to be cautious about how you interpret what Willie says when he's giving off a stream of consciousness during interviews. But after Ellie May won the other day, he said, Ellie May won't face anything of Colreevy's class in the mares' chase this year. Now, knowing Willie, he might just momentarily forgotten Concertista's existence. But as a 152 rated hurdler, she is of that class. So it might be that Willie's already decided that Concertista goes elsewhere. I give her a less than 50-50 chance of lining up. And if she doesn't, then once you strip out the likes of Riviere de Tel, who's going for the Arkle, put the kettle on, Henry says going for the Champion Chase, the market's overbroke. So there ought to be plenty of value. I think it's a good time to be betting in the race.
Yeah, I've now already got reservations at my Ante-Post pick, which we'll get to shortly. Deasy, you can wipe that smirk off your face and tell us a little bit about the front couple of 2 or 3 in the market.
Yeah, guess who Daniel's tipping. So I was looking at this race all week, and there is value there, but I'm just going to be very conservative, and I'm going to go for Mount Ida, because I think she's going to win. And said no, she's backed into favoritism the last few days. She was available at about 5.0, 6.0, but Gordon to the stable tour and said this is her target, and the money has come for her since. But I think she is a top quality horse. She won the Kim Muir last year at the festival, and it had to be one of the, we said this with someone else last week, but it was one of the performances at the festival. She must have been 30 lengths down at one stage, and actually ended up winning by 6.5 lengths, going away from Cloudy Glynn, who in his next race at the start of the season came out and won what's the name of the Hennessy, not the Hennessy, sorry, the Ladbrokes Trophy. So that was, and she was giving him a few pounds as well, so that was great for him. She's won her 2 chase starts this year. She's already beaten Ellie May. You know, I think she's a top quality mare. She could, if Concertista doesn't turn up, she could probably end up quite a sharp price favourite. I think it's only between the two of them. The rest of this could end up being an Irish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I wouldn't really rate any of the English horses. Ginine Line was one I was looking at, but I don't think she's guaranteed to go there, so I wouldn't be backing her on an Ante-Post market just yet. Henry said in the stable tour that they were training her for it, but they're not 100% sure if she's going to go there. She was sent over to Cheltenham for a run around the track at the start of the year. I won that race where my Drogo slipped. My Drogo fell and she slipped, and Rachel get the great sitting her. So she might be interesting at a bit of a bigger price, but if she turns up in the day. But I think Mount Ida is the most solid of them. I think she's a good horse. I think she'll go off shorter, even though she's only 4.2. There probably is a bit of value in that price, and I'd be happy enough to take that.
Yeah, and it's like Matt said, if you can find that guaranteed runner, then there's definitely a case to be made. Well, I am going to stick with Concertista. Now, to be honest, I'd back her wherever she goes. I know she kind of gets a hard time based on getting chinned on the line there the last 8. For me, I think if Paul Townend had it back, he wouldn't have got to the front too soon. I guess he was riding to beat Roxana as opposed to Black Tears, who kind of did her on the line. And I think she kind of got branded, like any short price favourite when they lose a big Cheltenham race, she got branded into this. She can't do it at Cheltenham. Well, not that she can't do it at Cheltenham, but she can't do it at such a short price. But her jumping, I would describe as kind of economical. It's grand, but I do think I would agree with most of what Matt said in terms of the race will cut up. There's some good points about whether she goes here or not. Not gonna lie, there were some, particularly that Willie Mullins quote has kind of got my ears perked up a small bit. But 4.8, if she does run here, I definitely think she'll go off favourites. I do think punters will eventually latch onto her, and I think it'll be potentially between her and Ellie May to justify favoritism. For me, Mount Ida, it was an incredible performance in the Kim Muir. I don't know if this trip is potentially too sharp for her or not, given that it's only 2 mile 4. But so at the top of the market, the one that definitely stood out the price is Concertista 4.8 if she indeed runs. But Matt, outside those top of the market, I know you said a lot of the favorites are going to, or the potential winners are going to come from the top of the market. Are there any sleepers in the market for you that might run? There was 2 you mentioned, Put the Kettle on, Riviere de Tel. It's important to say, like you said, that they're 99% definitely not going to run here. So the market is going to cut up.
Yeah, that's right. And I think the form that DC touched on at Fairyhouse on New Year's Day is going to be crucial here. Mount Ida gave Ellie May £3, beat her half a length. They clashed there actually before last Easter under similar conditions. Ellie May won, giving Mount Ida £6, beat her 2.5 lengths. So the bare form suggests that Mount Ida, second season chaser, has just improved past Ellie May, a third season chaser. And Gordon said Mount Ida's a completely different mare this season. There are a few reasons why you might think Ellie May can reverse that form back, though. First and foremost, Mount Ida jumped significantly to her right when really racing. She jumped right at the last 4 fences at Fairyhouse, violently so 2 out. So she got away with it in the Kim Muir last year. Over 3/4 of a mile less, her jumping is going to be put under serious pressure. At the new course, less of a problem for horses jumping right in the old course, but is still an issue. And the other thing about her is Mount Ida's amongst the Ante-Post market leaders for the Grand National. It's not easy to pick a horse for a conditions race at Cheltenham and then again 22 days later for Aintree. So whether Gordon will have her peaked in the way some of her opponents will be, I'm not sure. But if you like that form, then the one at much bigger prices to have a look at is Scarlet and Dove. She was going best between the third last and second last at Fairyhouse. When Mount Ida was ridden to challenge 2 out, she jumped sideways and broadsided Scarlet and Dove, causing both her and Brian Cooper to become unbalanced and lose momentum. Now, it's hard to know whether Scarlet and Dove would have won, but given she was only beaten 6 lengths, not being given a hard time on the run-in, you'd think she'd be in the mix at the very least. She's never run at Cheltenham, so she's got to prove she'll take to the track. But I think there are reasons that the Mares Chase might suit her. She's very versatile as to ground. I think it's her ideal trip. She's inclined to shift a little to her left. She's only actually run once over fences going left-handed when winning the Flying Bolt at Navan over 2 miles against the Geldings. So she may improve again for a left-handed track. Joseph O'Brien said she's a really hard mare to get fit. That Fairyhouse race was just her second run of the season. She's the type to improve in the second half of the season. She's meeting Mount Ida and Ellie May on virtually identical terms here. So I think that there's much less between them than the market suggests. So if you want one at a double figure price, who may well shorten and outrun those odds, it'd be Scarlet and Dove for me.
Yeah, very kind of fascinating point. I guess that the rest of the outsiders, there's Zambella's been talked up in a lot of places, given she fell 3 out the last day. Anything else to add on the Mares Chase that you kind of touched on pre-recording that at that stage of the week, Pete, you're kind of tuned out from the race, and maybe it's the best way of putting it, Dees?
Yeah. I can't even remember the race last year. Right? The only one that I was looking at, I think, outside of the rest of them is probably Vienna Court, Nigel Twiston-Davis's horse. So she's won at the track already this season, which has won handicaps. She beat Simply the Bets the last day. Like, old Nigel will be absolutely gunning for her to just even hit the frame. I think it would be a huge thing for him. So if you want something at a much bigger price, I think she's available at 17.0. She was bigger during the week. There's obviously a bit of money for her. She's definitely going to go here. So if there was something else at a bigger price, I wouldn't put anyone off having a little bet on her, especially if you're going to get 3 or 4 or 5 places. I don't think you will though, but she's the only one out of the rest of them that I thought might be a bit of interest. But I think the top of the market is going to dominate this race.
Yeah, last point, I know Dulcita is currently still priced. I presume she's not going here based on the exchange liquidity there, because I was kind of half impressed with her win the last day out, her getting off the market in novice chases. Yeah,
I think for the vibes from Willie are that she's unlikely to show up here. The only other angle I can see into this is with the Glancing Queen. My view is a bit like DC. I'm not sure that the British form is going to be good enough compared to the Irish mares. Her chance rests on what you make of Long Press in the Dipper, where she actually was only a couple of lengths down at the last, made a mistake before getting beaten 10 lengths by him. And if you do like her, then perhaps the way to generate some value is do a double with Long Press. But I think the Irish form is probably a fair way ahead of the British form in this. Wouldn't be surprised if he said to see a 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, those related doubles. The only one I ended up getting up before is Imperial Aura and Simply the Bets. And the giddiness throughout the week when the first one, I think it was Imperial Aura, or whoever was first up. But those relatable doubles could potentially be ways into races like this and back in form like that at the festival. But DC, Matt, thanks a million for coming on. That's the Mares Chase. Do check out the rest of our Cheltenham previews on YouTube playlists. And our horse racing pod will be back Thursday afternoon. DC, you're back in the horse racing pod?
Yeah, back in Thursday. We'll see you then.
See you then. Chat to you then.